First War, World War II, the fascist victory. The fascists won the Second World War, and there are no separate states in today's world. The center of the world, Berlin, and the Third Reich hold absolute dominance. All former states now submit to a single system, and their leaders are appointed directly by the Führer. The world appears politically calm because there are no conflicts, but this peace has been achieved at the expense of freedom. The fascists are considered superior to other nationalities. They are given more privileges, while all other nationalities and races are declared equal. Daily life proceeds under a strict order. Before the start of the workday, the anthem of the Third Reich is sung. Worldwide, upon reaching the age of 19, youth complete a mandatory 2-year service in another country. Public executions are carried out for political and ideological crimes. German surveillance police are present everywhere. Disrespecting pictures and statues of Hitler ends in hanging. Culture and information have completely changed. The Louvre Museum in Paris has been cleared of ancient art and turned into a military exhibition exclusively praising the fascist victory. The Statue of Liberty in New York no longer holds a torch. Instead, it holds a giant swastika in one hand and Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, in the other. Hollywood has been transformed into Goebbelswood. The entire global film industry reflects fascist ideology. For example, in all installments of the Fast and Furious franchise, the main character would be a fascist who, along with a team of assistants gathered from other nationalities, fights against the opposition, labeled as terrorists, who rebel against the Third Reich. Parades dedicated to the fascist victory are held all over the world every year. The economic system is also managed from a single center. A single currency, the Reichsmark, is used worldwide. The famous Wall Street Stock Exchange in New York is no longer an independent market, but operates as part of a strictly planned economic system. There is no society of the wealthy, private property is restricted, and all the world's wealth is declared the property of the Third Reich. Germany becomes a highly beautiful and luxurious state. In Germany, especially in Berlin, mind-bogglingly massive palaces, buildings, and construction projects are built. However, this ruthless system also has its own positive outcomes for humanity. Because a single global dominance has been established and there is no political competition, wars and interstate armed conflicts have completely ceased around the world. With the enormous funds no longer spent on weaponry and political games, all natural resources and food are distributed equally among the planet's population. There are no state borders. Anyone can go anywhere in the world with police permission. Smoking is strictly banned worldwide because Hitler hated smoking. But this peace and stability are achieved at the expense of freedoms, the right to choose, and human values. Second War, the defeat of the revolution in Cuba. Cuba is one of the brightest, freest, and most dynamic regions in the Caribbean with a vibrant lifestyle. When you enter the center of Havana, the skyscrapers, casinos, and streets are illuminated with neon lights and bustling with crowds. The city does not sleep at night. Clubs are filled with live music, the streets with tourists, and the seaside with luxurious restaurants. Old cars have long been replaced by the latest, expensive automobiles, and this site defines the modern and wealthy image of the city. The economic system is based on tourism, services, and an open market economy. There are no sanctions from the US and European countries, which is why international relations are extremely favorable and stable. Due to the absence of international restrictions, large business investments and the capital of transnational companies have continuously flowed into the country. In the national economy, the inflation rate is normal and under control, and the living standard of the population is normal. A strong middle class with solid purchasing power has been formed. Transnational corporations are fully integrated into the local market. On the central streets of Havana, local Cubans freely have lunch with their families in popular fast food chains like McDonald's, KFC, and Burger King. Global beverages such as Coca-Cola and Pepsi are freely sold in stores and produced in large factories built right on the island. Due to its convenient logistical location in the region, global giants like Nike, Apple, and Amazon have opened their major regional bases and distribution centers precisely in Havana. Daily life is inextricably linked with the global economy. Workers in tourist and business areas provide services in modern clothing with a perfect knowledge of foreign languages. The culture has also changed significantly. Havana's nightlife has become a global brand. The film industry has turned this place into a unique shooting location. Music, dance, and art have become commercialized. Political and social life, though not completely, is based on democratic principles. Instead of the former strict control, an open civil society has been formed where human rights and freedom of speech are valued. People can freely express dissatisfaction with government decisions or policies. The ability to hold peaceful protests and rallies is protected by law. Society is able to demand its rights and demand accountability from the government. Militarily, Cuba is the closest strategic partner of the U.S. Historically, this island nation never established close ties with the Soviet Union, therefore Soviet atomic bombs were never deployed on Cuban territory. There were no severe threats to Cuba from U.S. President John F. Kennedy. On the contrary, he considered it his closest economic and military ally. As a result, the terrifying Cuban Missile Crisis, which brought the whole world to the brink of nuclear war, never happened at all. However, as a consequence of the free market and the uncontrolled flow of foreign capital, a large part of the country's natural resources has completely fallen into the hands of transnational corporations. Huge companies openly or secretly interfere in local elections. There is a difference like heaven and earth in the state's attitude towards the local population versus tourists. The best infrastructure, clean drinking water, uninterrupted electricity, high-level security, and the cleanest beaches are mainly guaranteed for tourists and foreign businessmen. And the most dangerous aspect is, the country's economy has become completely dependent on foreign policy and global processes. The Third War, Soviet victory in the Cold War. In the late 1970s, the United States disintegrated due to economic crisis and internal rebellions. Europe completely surrendered to the Soviets. The Soviet Union achieved an absolute victory in the Cold War. The entire planet is united around one massive state, the Union of World Soviet Socialist Republics, UWSSR. From New York to Tokyo, giant red flags flutter in the central squares of every city. The economic system has been completely transformed. Private property, millionaires, and commercial banks have been abolished. New York has been turned into the headquarters of the World Gosplan, the State Planning Committee. Money has been canceled across the planet, replaced by a unified electronic system of labor hours, Trudeauden for all citizens. Cities have been rebuilt based on a single architectural style. In every corner of the world, comfortable but identical modern high-rise, Khrushchevka 2000 complexes have risen. Culture and daily life are fully subordinated to proletarian ideals. In Rio de Janeiro, the statue of Christ the Redeemer was replaced by a massive hammer and sickle and renamed the monument to the savior of the world's workers. A giant red star is fixed to the top of the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Instead of YouTube, people use SAV Video, which features no pranks or music videos, but only educational lessons, footage from party congresses, and manuals on how to repair factory machinery faster. Instead of Instagram, people use Laborgram, where they don't brag about expensive clothes, travels, or food, but only about the results of their labor, for example, the cotton they picked, an engine they assembled, or a blueprint they drew. Pop culture and information are under total party control. Hollywood has been closed, and in its place, the United Mosfilm Western branch has opened. Movie plots are based strictly on socialist realism. For instance, in the widely loved Avengers movie, the superheroes are not billionaires or gods. Their team consists of a Stakhanovite miner, a leading woman agronomist, a Soviet cosmonaut, and a cyber factory worker. They fight against a wicked intergalactic capitalist oligarch, Thanos, who wants to monopolize space resources and enslave the people. Global brands have been nationalized. The McDonald's chain has been renamed People's Cafeteria No. 1, serving the same healthy but simple meals, such as buckwheat, cutlets, and compote worldwide. Apple and Microsoft have been replaced by the state enterprise Electronica Global. The Internet, or rather the global network named Cheburashka, is strictly controlled. Every person's life is planned from birth. Schoolchildren are required to join the Octyabryat and pioneer organizations from a young age. Religion has been completely eradicated. All holy sites in the Vatican and Jerusalem have been converted into strictly guarded museums of scientific atheism. The greatest attention and trillions of funds are directed not toward armaments, but toward science and the conquest of space. The Yuri Gagarin base has been built on the moon, and red colonies named New Lenin already exist on Mars. You won't find shiny luxury cars like Mercedes, BMW, or Tesla on the roads. Only one type of vehicle is produced for all citizens, the sturdy but remarkably ugly people's Lada electric cars. They cannot be bought with money. They are provided to exemplary workers by the trade union based on special vouchers with a 10-year waiting list. However, this utopian system had incredible positive results for humanity. There is not a single unemployed, homeless, or hungry person on the planet. Everyone's housing is guaranteed. Racism and nationalism have been completely eliminated, regardless of skin color. Everyone calls each other comrade. The most serious diseases have been conquered through free and high-level medicine. There are no wars, and crime has dropped nearly to zero. Yet people's inquisitiveness and design talents have almost vanished. Dependency and alcoholism have surged among the population. Everything, what book you read, where you vacation, and what profession you pursue is decided not by you but by the state. Modern KGB artificial intelligence systems installed in streets and homes monitor not only people's speech, but also their facial expressions and emotions. The planet is well-fed, safe, and peaceful, but humanity has become small bolts in a massive gray and soulless mechanism, all dressing the same and thinking the same. The Fourth War, Confederate Victory, and the World of Two Americas. The year is 1865. In the American Civil War, the Southern forces, the Confederacy, achieved unexpected military and diplomatic breakthroughs, managing to preserve their independence. Today, the North American continent is not a single powerful nation, but is split in two along the Mason-Dixon line, much like North and South Korea. The industrial and liberal United States of America, USA, in the north, and the aristocratic and agrarian Confederate States of America, CSA, in the south. The border is strictly guarded, similar to the Berlin Wall during the Cold War. The Confederate capital is Richmond, and the state has implemented the Golden Circle Project, annexing Cuba, northern parts of Mexico, and the Caribbean basin, transforming into a massive empire. In the mid-20th century, due to international pressure and European sanctions, classical slavery was officially abolished in the Confederacy. However, it did not disappear. Instead, it took on a more modern and terrifying form, the corporate caste system. People are divided into categories based on race and origin. The descendants of former slave owners have become an elite oligarchs, who no longer run cotton and tobacco plantations, but global agro-corporations, oil companies, and biotechnology giants. Members of the lower class are bound by lifelong forced labor contracts and cannot leave their residential areas without permission. Cities like Atlanta, Dallas, and Richmond have a very strange appearance. Massive white marble columns in the antebellum Old South style stand at the base and entrances of 100-story ultramodern glass skyscrapers. In the streets, the elite travel only in the latest luxury models of massive, powerful pickups, such as specially armored Ford and Chevrolet models. Southern hospitality has been elevated to the level of strict law. Rules such as being polite to one another, respecting women, and defending one's honor even to the point of dueling are preserved among the elite. South around Atlanta and New Orleans, a powerful film industry has emerged, Dixie Wood. Instead of the well-known Marvel movies, there is the Dixie Comics universe. Their main hero is not Captain America, but Captain Dixie. He wears gray, the color of Southern military uniforms, and primarily fights against the Yankees' Northerners' evil plans to centralize the state and take away freedoms. Blues, jazz, and hip-hop are completely banned as music of the rebellious lower class. Radios play only country and Southern rock. In sports, American football has risen to the level of a religion, with teams resembling gladiators fighting under elite sponsorship. There is also a digital border between the USA and the CSA. Confederate citizens have their own separate, closed internet system. Powerful filters work to prevent harmful liberal ideas and rebellion from entering from global networks. Coca-Cola has become the unofficial national drink of the Confederacy since it was created in Atlanta. In the North USA, in response, only Pepsi is consumed and Coca-Cola is banned as slave owner water. The impact of the Confederate victory on world history has been interesting. Since there was no unified, powerful USA, no single absolute hegemon emerged in the world. Because the North and South were preoccupied with competing against each other, they did not send troops to the Middle East, Vietnam, or Europe. Involvement in global wars decreased sharply. Within the Confederacy itself, an unbelievable utopia of absolute freedom has formed for the elite. Here, the central government, Richmond, cannot interfere in the business of states or individuals at all. Taxes are nearly zero, and the sanctity of private property is considered sacred. In elite residential areas, crime is non-existent. The environment is clean since all heavy industry has been moved to lower-class areas, and people live very politely, remaining loyal to their traditions. The elite sit in their beautiful courtyards, drinking iced tea and engaging in philosophical conversations about honor and freedom. However, their entire utopia is built upon the tragedy of millions of voiceless, rightless people behind the walls who are perpetually dependent on the system. The two Americas remain locked in mutual hatred, occupied not with conquering space or technological breakthroughs, but only with proving who is stronger on their own continent. The Fifth War, Ottoman victory at the gates of Vienna. The year 1683, the Siege of Vienna, became history's greatest turning point. The forces of Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha captured Vienna. The European alliance disintegrated, and over the next 100 years, Ottoman armies subdued Rome, Paris, and finally London. Today, there are no independent European states on the world map. The entire continent is considered the western provinces, islets of the Great Ottoman State. The political, economic, and cultural center of the world is a single city, Istanbul. Western cities have changed beyond recognition. The famous Colosseum in Rome is not an ancient ruin, but a massive central square where traditional wrestling matches and horse racing competitions are held. In Paris, the Eiffel Tower was never built. In its place stands a magnificent 300-meter steel minaret designed for the call to prayer to reach the entire city. The London Museum is a center showcasing Islamic calligraphy, Eastern miniatures, and the weaponry of the sultans. The Gregorian calendar is not used on the planet. The whole world lives according to a single Hijri calendar. The order of the days of the week is also different. Globally, the weekends are not Saturday and Sunday, but Thursday and Friday. All major commercial centers in New York, Tokyo, and London cease operations entirely at Friday noon. Instead of car horns, a profound silence settles over the cities, and only the sound of the adhan is heard. Due to historical debates regarding the hyper-realistic depiction of humans and animals, Western 3D CGI computer graphics stopped developing in this world. Instead, the highest peak of visual art is considered minimalistic 2D vector animation. It evolved as a digital expansion of the ancient Turkish, Karagöz, and Hasavat shadow theater. Western literature did not disappear under the layers of history, but it was perfectly Islamized. For example, students in British schools do not study William Shakespeare as an English playwright, but as Sheikh Pir, a great Sufi poet from the province of Britannia. His famous Romeo and Juliet is interpreted in textbooks not as a love story, but as a philosophical epic reflecting the human soul's Romeo, longing for divine love Juliet. Germany's culture has completely shifted. Instead of the famous Munich Oktoberfest beer festival, the world's largest international tulip festival is held every spring. Milan or Paris high fashion does not exist. Global fashion is dictated by the large artisan guilds in Istanbul. Women's fashion is dominated by garments modern ferej and abayas, made of fine silk that cover the body but are decorated with extremely expensive patterns. The center of the world film industry is Bosphorus Wood on the shores of the Bosphorus Strait. Plots celebrate loyalty, family, and state interests rather than Western individualism. The James Bond, Agent 7, we all know is named Janissary 7 in this world. He works directly for the Sultan's Secret Service rather than the British Queen, and he is a hero who eliminates rebel Democrats hiding in the forests of Europe. The evil in the Lord of the Rings epic, Sauron and the Orcs, is depicted as wild crusaders invading not from the east, but from the frozen north. Based on the ancient Ottoman millet system, followers of all religions are guaranteed to live in absolute safety in exchange for paying their taxes and practicing in their own churches and synagogues. Regional wars are non-existent, and crime is exceptionally low because the punishment for theft and murder is ancient and extremely harsh, executed publicly in squares. People's psyches are calm, and family institutions are incredibly strong. There are no political parties, elections, or opposition in society. The word of the Sultan and his law are accepted as the shadow of the Creator on earth. Should any political new think or dissent arise, state security forces suppress it immediately, bloodily, and without question.